You know that kind of quiet you only find at 6 in the morning on a lake? The kind where the water kisses the pilings like it's whispering secrets, and the pine trees smell so strong you can taste the forest in your coffee. That was exactly why I dropped nearly every penny I had on a 1970s A-frame cabin in Whispering Lake Estates. After 15 years as an environmental engineer staring at spreadsheets and soil samples in the city, I wanted this. My own weathered dock stretching 30 feet into the crystal water. Place where no one could reach me. The morning it all started, I was untying my little inflatable fishing boat, dreaming of drifting out with a line in the water. That's when I saw it. A bright orange violation notice taped to my front door, flapping like a warning flag. Citation 412. Unauthorized use of community shoreline assets. Fine. $750. Signed with a fancy swirl by none other than Priscilla Harrington, president of the Homeowners Association. I stood there, coffee going cold, reading it twice. My dock, on my deed. The one that came with the house since Nixon was president. And this woman was claiming it was community property because the HOA had pressure washed it once. I laughed at first. This had to be a mistake. I grabbed my property survey from '78 and marched down to the dock, ready to sort this out like reasonable adults. But there she was already, Priscilla. Tall, blonde, always in those pastel pantsuits that screamed, "I lunch with the mayor." She was circling my boat like a shark, clipboard in hand. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice even. "There's been a misunderstanding. This dock is on my lot." She barely glanced at the papers. Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Oh, Ethan, honey, vested in maintaining these docks for aesthetic consistency. By accepting that, you've essentially transferred control. It's in the covenants if you'd actually read them. And that thing," she pointed at my boat like it was roadkill, "lowers our property values. This is an aesthetic zone." I felt my neck getting hot. I bought private property, not some HOA theme park.
Cabin is booked for the next guests.
Her eyes went ice cold. "Caldwell, doesn't happen by accident. It requires enforcement." She clicked her pen. "The fine stands escalate." That was the first crack in the perfect picture of Whispering Lake. I thought it was just one crazy neighbor. I was so wrong. 3 days later, things got worse. I woke up to find my boat missing from the dock. The lines weren't untied. They were sliced clean through with something sharp. I spotted it floating way out. And towing it back, I found a 6-inch gash right at the waterline. His wasn't a prank. Destruction. My hands shook as I took photos of the cuts. I fixed the boat myself that afternoon, but the rage stayed. People like Priscilla don't stop when you ignore them. They double down. Smart guy would do. I bought a waterproof GPS tracker, the kind they use for stolen vehicles, and hid it deep in the boat's compartment. Then I waited. The GPS sat silent for 2 nights. My 8-year-old daughter Lily kept asking why mommy wasn't here anymore and why the pretty lady in the pink suit kept staring at our house from her golf cart. I told her it was just grown-up stuff, but inside I was boiling. The next morning, another orange ticket fluttered on my mailbox. Grass 1 inch too tall. Then my truck was an eyesore because I parked it in my own driveway instead of the approved garage. Standards, mister. Philip heard when I called the HOA office. We all have to sacrifice for the greater good. I bit my tongue and smiled for Lily. But at night, I sat on the dock with a beer, staring at the dark water, wondering how long before this serenity choked me. Old man Harlan from 2 doors down knocked one evening, 6-pack in hand, face like he'd seen war. "Son, I saw what she did to your boat. Same thing she pulled on the Millers last summer. They painted their shutters the wrong shade of beige and suddenly their mortgage payments doubled with fines. Sold at a loss just to escape." He cracked a beer. That reflection pond she babies? It's her throne. She spends HOA money like it's her personal checking account. Fountains, koi that cost more than my pension. Imported grass that dies every winter. Tells everyone it's community heritage. But I heard the developer back in the 80s never deeded that 2-acre patch right. It's floating in limbo, agricultural zoning from the old dairy farm days. My ears perked up. Harlan nodded. She tried to slip a quiet claim through last year, but the county caught it. She's terrified someone will notice. That night, the GPS buzzed at 2:14 a.m. The blue dot drifted slowly across the lake, straight to the far shore, right into the heart of Priscilla's precious reflection pond. I watched the little light stop, then stay there like a taunt. She was moving my boat again, sending a message. I can touch anything you love. The next morning, my inflatable was tied to a cypress right beside her Zen garden, half sunk in the ornamental shallows. I towed it home, took pictures, and felt something click into place. Patience time was over. I called Harlan at dawn. With every fiber, son. Got 40 grand, you can float me for a week? He didn't even ask why. By noon, I was at the county clerk's office with a freelance journalist friend, Elena, digging through dusty microfiche. There it was, the reflection pond parcel never transferred. Zoned agricultural/livestock, seized for back taxes years ago, sitting on the auction list for $42,000. But the real twist hit like a gut punch. Buried in the files was a memo from 2 years ago. Priscilla had tried to buy it herself through a shell LLC, then quietly rezone it as private spa extension for her mansion. She knew the whole time the HOA didn't own it. She was just using our dues to polish her personal kingdom. I wired the money. The deed was mine. I was on the phone with my buddy Wyatt 3 counties over. I need your muddiest, loudest Holsteins. 12 of them. Pigs, you got 2, insurance. Wyatt laughed so hard he nearly dropped the phone. Thursday morning, brother. I hired a crew to strip the fountains and ornamental grasses at dawn Thursday. We netted the koi and drove them to a rescue sanctuary. I'm not a monster. Then we pulled the sod, let the natural water table rise. By noon, Priscilla's Zen garden was a 3-foot-deep mud pit. The first low moo echoed across the lake like thunder. 12 black and white beauties lumbered off Wyatt's trailer, sank to their knees in ecstasy, and started turning paradise into primeval swamp. I leaned on the brand-new barbed wire fence, strictly agricultural code, and waited for the fireworks. Tires screeched. Mercedes slammed the curb. She sprinted across the grass in Italian heels, face a mask of pure horror. What in God's name have you done to the community's reflection pond? Afternoon, Priscilla. I tipped my cap. It's not a pond anymore. My new business partners. I pointed at Betsy the cow, belly deep and grinning like she'd won the lottery. This is bioterrorism, she shrieked, vibrating. I'm calling the police, the EPA, the news. I pulled the laminated deed and zoning map from my back pocket. I love laminating things. Actually, this isn't residential. It's agricultural plot 4B. County ordinance says I gotta maintain it for livestock. I'm just reclaiming the land's heritage. I stepped closer to the fence. And if you touch my boat, my daughter, or even look at my cows sideways again, I'll release the pigs. Wyatt's got some very loud pig. She gasped like a landed fish, the smell of fresh manure wafting over her Chanel. The police arrived to find one man calmly feeding cows and one woman screaming about property values. The officer read the deed, looked at the cows, looked at Priscilla, and fought back a smile. Ma'am, it's his land. After 10 p.m., there's no violation here. It's a farm now. Priscilla's face went nuclear. Up. Elena had tipped them off. David versus Goliath in Whispering Lake. The reporter shoved a mic in my face while Betsy mooed behind me. Critics say you've ruined the aesthetic, Mr. Caldwell. I smiled straight into the camera. Nature isn't manicured. Not a koi swimming pool funded by everyone else's dues. True serenity comes from freedom, not a rule book written by a dictator. They turned the camera on Priscilla, handkerchief over her nose, eyes wild. This isn't about legalities. It's about class. People or those kind of animals here. We are an elite community. She wasn't talking about the cows. The clip went viral overnight. Karen of the Lake, trending with millions of views. Neighbors who'd been terrified for years started waving at me. Lily asked if she could pet the cows. I said yes, but the real hammer was still coming. Tuesday night, the emergency HOA meeting packed the community hall. 60 people instead of the usual 6. Priscilla sat at the head table, pale and flanked by her yes-men, banging her gavel like it could still save her. This meeting is to address the nuisance at the pond. I stood. I'm just a stack of bank statements and contractor invoices. Point of order. Landscaping payments to Prestige Pond Services, the ones that go straight to a Cayman Islands shell company. Funny thing, that P.O. box is also registered to your husband's consulting firm. The room erupted. Loaded gun. You've been stealing our dues to renovate a pond you didn't even own. Priscilla tried to bang the gavel, but the spell was broken. The vote of no confidence was unanimous, 58-0. The forensic audit later showed nearly $1.4 million embezzled over 6 years. Spa trips labeled landscape research, luxury dinners as board meetings. 3 weeks later, Priscilla was escorted out of her lakefront mansion in handcuffs, shielding her face from the same cameras she'd once used to shame the rest of us. Her husband Brad showed up at my dock a month later looking 10 years older. I didn't know, he muttered, staring at the cows knee-deep in mud. She handled everything. I handed him coffee. The boat was just rubber, Brad. But you might want a good lawyer. 6 months later, the state environmental department sent a letter, not a fine, a commendation. Turns out Priscilla's chemicals had turned the pond into a dead zone. My cows broke up the compacted soil, the manure fed the plankton, and native plants exploded. Great blue herons and salamanders tripled. The mud pit became the healthiest wetland in 3 counties. Last weekend, Harlan got remarried right beside the fence. White chairs, string lights, cows lined up like guests. When the bride kissed the groom, one of them let out a massive moo and the whole crowd cracked up. Harlan clapped my shoulder, tears in his eyes. You know, Ethan, this place finally lives up to its name. It's actually serene. The new board, led by Harlan, slashed dues 40% and killed the aesthetic committee. They asked me to run for president. I declined. Next spring. I still drink coffee on the dock every morning. Lily feeds the cows. Hills and wildflowers. Frogs singing where Priscilla once poisoned everything. Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty to make things clean. So tell me, have you ever had a neighbor like Priscilla? Did you fight back or did you move? And if you had to choose between a perfect lawn and a muddy pasture full of happy cows, which one are you picking? Drop it in the comments. I'll be down at the dock, waiting for the fish to bite.